Hi, welcome everyone to the new video. Today I want to talk about the 30-33 rule, which I just recently learned about, and I think it's the best concept to buying a house that you have right now. And this will help you a lot if you're trying to buy a house and not trying to get into too much debt or trying to buy a house that you can't afford later on in life. So, the 30-33 rule starts with a 30% down payment that you have set aside. So I would suggest that you put only 20% of that as a down payment, and then if you wanted to borrow the other 80%, the rest of the 10% you just keep aside in a high yield saving account or just cash. I don't recommend that, but just keep some cash on the side, and that cash can be used to for unexpected repairs to the house. So if the roof breaks down or something in the sink, or your sink breaks down, or anything happens in the plumbing, or any issue that comes with owning a house, and if they come up, you have some money set aside to pay for that. So that's why I recommend 30% down payment. You have this set aside. Have the house that have the house that you want to buy. Have that in mind, and then just have 30% of that kept aside, 20% down payment, and then other 10% saved away, locked away in a high yield saving account where you can easily access it, and then take that money out once you need it to do any repairs, or recover any damages from the house. Next, we move on to the 30% of household income. So this will include the mortgage, the property taxes, and every other annual or monthly payments that you have to make on the house. That should not exceed 30% of your household income, because your house is not going to be your only expense. You're going to have other expenses like car payments, or if you want to pay for vacations, or any other expenses that may come up in your life. You want to pay for those. So you don't want your entire all of your money that you have saved up locked in the house, and then spending all the money that you earn on the house. You want to have some money left over for yourself, for investments, for savings, and for even travel, which I really like to do. So only have 30% of your income contributed towards your house. So that's like mortgage, that's going to be like property taxes or any other expenses that comes up. Next, we move on to the three rule. So this might sound this might be discouraging to some people, because not everyone's gonna have like the dream house that they always wanted. But I recommend not purchasing a house that's more than three times your yearly income. So the average yearly income in the US is $80,000 right now. So to multiply that by three, so you get 240,000. This is not gonna buy you a really it's not gonna buy you the best house in the country, or any like no house of a dream house that you want, but this will save you a lot of money in the future. So this if you apply this early in life, you're buying your first house, I recommend doing this. So only pay, if you're making the average salary, only pay about $240,000 for it. So if you're living in a cheap area or cheap state like the some southern states or other states in the Midwest, it's kind of easy to buy a comfortable house for 240. Or if you're living in LA or someplace, or California, not I doubt you'll find any house that's like 240K in LA, but somewhere in California, the cheap areas up north, or some on the eastern side, you might be able to find some houses that you can afford, maybe in Bakersfield, I think, and some Fresno up north. But those are some areas you might be able to get lucky to find a house that's like 240 or even around that price. But it's going to take a lot of time, and it's going to take a lot of research to find that type of house. But early on, if you're buying your first house, only pay three times your yearly income, because if it's more than that, it's going to eat your finances alive, and then you won't be able to use the 30% of your household income towards the house. You'll be paying more than that. So that's not really good for you, because your house is not going to be your only expense. You're going to have other expenses. As I said before, you want to have some money left to invest, some money to save, some money to travel, some money to pay for the cars that you want to drive. So only try to find a house that's three times your income. If you're making more than the average, that's great. You can be able to afford a more expensive house. Maybe that's like 500K or $1 million based on your income, but never try not to exceed 3 times your yearly income. This is gonna save you a lot of money in the future, and especially if you're buying your first house. If you follow this rule, you might in the future you might even be able to find or afford another house using the same formula, and you can rent that out and have passive income. So maybe you can even retire with that passive income. You won't have to like work for too long. If you just be smart with your money and then use it wisely, you should have enough left over saved up for your retirement, and you have these passive incomes because you have the money left to buy extra properties that you can rent out, or the investments that you made by saving the money from your taking the money from your house, the money that you're going to put into your house towards your investments, that's going to pay for your retirement. So this 30-33 rule will save you a lot of money, maybe even have get you a early retirement, and pay for your retirement for the rest of your life if you do your finances and take care of your finances well. If you don't become too expensive, if you don't live like a a luxury life, you're gonna have a great time when you retire. Maybe you have some money left to do the things that you always wanted to in your retirement, and retire at like 40 or 50 if you just be smart with your money and follow this rule, and maybe buy extra houses and then invest the money that you're not putting towards your house into some smart investments like the S&P 500 that I explained in my last video, that all the investment that I'm interested in. So check those videos out. So that's the end of the video. Make sure to subscribe, and then also recommend me any other rules or any other financial advice that you would like.